Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Today, Jennifer and I are joined by the lovely Joia Walker. Joia is the owner of Inheirited. She is also a chef turned farmer, agri-culinary artist, and meal prep extraordinaire. She specializes in preparing healthy food that tastes just as good as fatty foods made from fresh and local ingredients. She does it with integrity, keeping with customers' experience in mind. What sets her apart is her passion for food in combination with healing. She wants to help create better lifestyles for her customers and believes that she can do just that, beginning with food. After recently diving into the agri-culinary industry, Joia is ready to take Inheirited to the next level, offering customers a farm-to-table experience. So excited to talk to you about all of this, Joia. Welcome to Madness Cafe.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here and to talk to you.
We're excited too. This is a topic that is very timely as we are talking a lot about health and wellness and whole foods, etc. But tell us, what's your personal story and how did you begin this journey?
I want to say about 2014, I was starting to have symptoms of menopause. And in 2014, I was 26. So
wow.
That was, out of the ordinary and, not really heard of. And so I was going from, doctor to doctor, and my primary care doctor referred me to a specialist, and that specialist referred me to another specialist. And I was just kind of telling all the doctors that I was seeing that I believed that I was going through menopause. I was having all of the symptoms, the hot flashes, the night sweats, all of it. And nobody believed me. And so finally, after thousands of dollars in doctor bills, and then I moved from St. Louis to Atlanta, I got a new primary care doctor. I let her know what was going on. She was kind of skeptical as well, but she referred me to a specialist. And so, I was thinking, oh, here we go again. And I saw a specialist and I let him know what was going on. And, he was like, exactly what you're describing is menopause. By that time, I was 30. I had been on this 4-year journey trying to figure out what was going on. And I had just started going into menopause. And so the doctor that I had in Atlanta was really helpful because she just kind of let me know about some things I was eating and drinking that were triggers. And so she asked me if I was eating chocolate, and I was like, yes, almost every day.
Yeah.
She asked me if I was drinking coffee, and I'm like, yes, every morning. She's like, okay, both of these things have caffeine. Caffeine is a trigger. Was a trigger for hot flashes. And so I began to reduce the amount of caffeine that I was drinking and not eating so much chocolate. From there, I asked her, well, what can I do as far as like a natural remedy or just changing my diet or my lifestyle in general to kind of help these symptoms, because the next step was going to be like hormone replacement therapy. And so she was like, reducing the amount of caffeine, reducing your stress, working out, and just eating healthier. I got on my salads every day, lots of veggies in my hash brown scramble that I was eating every day. And so I'm like, okay, give me all the vegetables. So I started working out because thankfully, the job at the time, we got that gym membership. So I was down there 4 days a week doing boot camp. Just from kind of changing my diet and exercising more, drinking more water, I started to see the those symptoms reducing. The doctors prescribed progesterone and estrogen and these supplemental hormones to kind of balance everything out. And one option was, okay, well, we'll have to put you on birth control, and just all of these things that were not in my body. And I didn't want to like, I didn't want to take a pill every day. I just chose to explore my health, like from the natural side. I gradually started cutting meat out from my diet because oddly enough, I had actually developed an like allergy to chicken.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, it just was a lot going on with my body just over the last 10 years. A lot of things have changed. I kind of made this connection that when I would go and I would eat a burger, immediately after eating this burger, I'm having hot flashes. So I'm like, okay, no more beef. And then I'm having this a breakout and kind of itching, and I don't know what it is, but I know that it's something I'm eating. And so I just cut out pork, cut out turkey, and I'm still getting this itchy reaction. Turns out it's chicken. So I cut chicken from my diet. And so all that really left me with was fish and vegetables. I noticed that like my skin was clearer. I'm not having hot flashes anymore, and all those symptoms that were there from the itching to the hot flashing and night sweats and all that, just changing my diet, cutting out caffeine, exercising more.
So you basically went plant-based with fish, like a pescatarian.
Yeah. I mean, it made me get creative because, you don't want to eat the same thing every day. And so, I'm thinking, hey, well, what else can I do? How can I get creative with my meals? And from cooking different things and posting it on Instagram and Facebook and changing my diet, I had dropped like 20 pounds. I had friends around that were just kind of like, what are you doing? And what are you cooking today? And so that's kind of how I got started with meal prep, is people around me just asked me to start cooking for them.
That's awesome. It's such a great story of standing up for yourself and going, hey, this something is not right with me. Somebody needs to listen to me. And you kept at it, and then advocating for yourself and looking at things that you could control, as opposed to, oh, let me just pop another pill, which, no shade on that. I mean, hell, I'm medicated for, a variety of reasons, but you wanted to take some control over it, and it's led to Inherited, which is amazing. And you feel better. I mean, you look beautiful. I mean, I've always thought you looked beautiful. Now you're just even more so. So this has led to this beautiful business for you. So tell us more about Inherited.
Yeah, so Inherited started off as just doing meal prep for other people. And from there, I was like, okay, well, let me see what else I can make. And so I had always been into like making hair products or candles or skin products. I was like, okay, let me get creative with food. I started doing like smoothies and, different flavors of that. And then I started making my own salad dressings and just other vegan foods, because I was like, okay, well, pescatarian is cool, but I want to, eventually go completely plant-based. So I started making vegan things, and the thing that kind of helped me take off with it was I had some friends and family over, and I made a bunch of food for them. And the only thing I made for myself were these vegan cheeseburger egg rolls. And like after I turned around from putting everything out on the counter, the egg rolls were gone. There were like 2 left.
They ate all your egg rolls?
They ate all my egg rolls. So I made the egg rolls, and I made the like a ranch dipping sauce to go with them. And that's how I sell them now, is the egg rolls with the ranch. And I turned around and they were gone. And I was like, where are my egg rolls? And they were like, oh, we thought we could eat those. And I was like, I made all of this food for y'all. The look on their face when they found out that they were vegan. And they were just like, I never would have thought. So I was like, okay, I have something with this. When, people start asking questions of, how did you make this? Sure, it's vegan. Did you make it? Where did you buy this ranch dressing? And I'm like, no, I made it. People are like, I need a bottle. I need a bottle, and I need a big bottle. Okay, I have something here.
On a side note, I need those recipes, because that sounds delicious.
Yeah. In fact, I may need to figure out how you can ship it to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So, I can just have you make it for me.
Yeah. I'm kind of exploring this e-commerce, I guess, with trying to figure out, okay, how do I ship food and ship it safely? And I'm in awe or just shocked that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a real business. I never thought, because I had always been working for other people, and I was like an admin for like 10 years. And I had left the staffing firm and went over into insurance. I just was like, this is not it for me. This is
Yeah.
not it. I'm a creative. I need to make things with my hands, and I need to smell things and taste things and see green and not white walls in a cubicle.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I needed something to change. And so it was shocking to me that I could do something that I enjoy doing. I could create a product and other people would like it and want it. It blows my mind.
On your website, you say, I believe that there has been a generational blessing on my family in the kitchen, and I'm grateful to have inherited it. Tell us more about the food in your family, your heritage, sitting around the table as a child. How did your family influence how you now cook?
Yeah. So my family, they all bake, and
Okay.
they create desserts and have their own ways of making lemon cake, pound cake. My grandmother makes a chocolate rum cake that I've just never heard of before. My cousin makes these cream cheese brownies that there's never any of them left. They've always baked and created meals. And my family, like, we had a family house in North St. Louis where there was like 3 or 4 levels of this house, and there was somebody on every level. And so our family's just always been kind of raised up together and coming together and making sure that everybody had something to eat, or making sure even sometimes that neighbors had food to eat. Holidays were big for us because we always barbecue, and there's always lots of food, lots of people, music, everybody, kids running around, the adults hanging out talking, and we're just all together inside, outside, in the backyard, and just always being together, and there's always food. It's rare that we get together and there's no food. So that's just kind of how I grew up. And we, for holidays, make traditional Southern food. So there's always greens and macaroni and cheese and cornbread. And my aunt makes jalapeno cornbread, and she cooks a duck with a glaze and
Oh
ham
my
and
God.
turkey. And it's just we have a dessert table. So
Oh,
there's like this, you have to get an extra fold out table, and there's this long table just full of cakes and pies and brownies, and you would think that we were catering something. There's food on the stove, in the stove, on the grill, on the counters, and it's just this, like, you would think something was being catered.
Wow. That's amazing that not only that food runs through your family, but apparently really, really, really good food. Like y'all know
Yeah.
what you're doing in the kitchen.
Oh yeah, I'm spoiled. So I go to restaurants, and I remember like living in Atlanta, going to southern like soul food restaurants, and I'm just like, my family needs a restaurant because our food is so like, and I just kind of I got spoiled. I would fly home for holidays just to eat. Just kind of talking with my grandmother and learning that my great aunt was a farmer and also a hunter.
Oh,
oh, wow.
wow.
So I didn't know that. And so that's kind of why I used to, my business was called Plating Perfection, because I was so focused on the food. But talking to my grandmother and hearing how she learned to cook, and hearing that my great aunt was a farmer, she grew her own food and hunted for her own food. And my grandmother described her as this Native American woman with hair so long that she could sit on it.
Oh,
And she said
wow.
it was just long jet black hair that she could sit on, and she would farm and she would hunt, and then take what she hunted and clean it and cook it, and there's dinner. So she has her own meat, and then all the vegetables that she's growing from her garden, and she's feeding her family. And
Wow.
that's my mother's great aunt. And then my father's grandmother also had a farm. And he said that he would go and spend summers with his grandmother. And he said the whole summer they were there, they never went to the grocery store.
Oh, wow.
They never had to go because they grew that much food.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah. So it's, kind of sometimes we don't talk about things, or there's just things that we don't know as we grow up about our own family. And we know that we have these interests and we're drawn to these things, but we don't know why. In 2020, I was just like, I need to learn how to grow food. And I felt that so strongly, and I didn't know why. But after I went on my journey of, doing my farming apprenticeship, then I find out my great grandmother and my great great aunt were both farmers.
Wow.
So you did an actual apprenticeship. How did that prepare you? And are you able to grow your own food now?
Yeah. So I did the apprenticeship May of last year, and it was a 10-week program. It's a local farm here in Ferguson. Their mission is to teach people how to grow their own food. And it's a 14-acre farm that's been around since 1883, just right in the heart of Ferguson, 5 minutes from where I grew up. It's a beautiful place, and everybody that goes there is like, man, there's just something about this land. The community there is just like a group of people that will always want to teach you, always want to show you how to do something, and always explain to you what's going on. So I got so much from that, those 10 weeks over last summer. And as I was doing things on the farm, I would come home in my own backyard and practice what I was doing on the farm. Last year, one of our responsibilities was taking care of these tomato plants. And tomato plants, they need a lot of attention, and they take a lot of work. But I decided, okay, well, this is my favorite thing to do on the farm is grow tomatoes. So I'm going to grow tomatoes at home. And so in my backyard, I grew 4 tomato plants that vined up to about maybe 6.5 feet tall. And I grew Roma tomatoes and citrine cherry tomatoes.
And what is the secret of growing a good tomato? Because I have not been able to do this.
I can't do it.
So with tomatoes, you have to pay attention to when it rains, because you don't want to overwater, because if they get too much water, as they get bigger, they'll split.
Yes.
But they need sunlight. If you grow basil with a tomato plant, like put a basil plant by a tomato plant, the basil will help keep pests away from your tomatoes.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
So it's called companion planting. In the greenhouse, there were peppers, basil, and tomatoes. And so if you plant green onions around pepper plants, it helps keep pests away. If you plant basil around tomatoes and pepper plants, it helps keep the pests away. So it's called a pizza garden when you do tomato and basil together. It's this herb that you're going to eat and you're going to use, but it's also helping these tomato plants not be devoured by these little bugs.
How hard is actual farming? Is it really physically difficult? How hard is it?
It's a lot of work. So one of the interview questions for the apprenticeship was rate your level of being in shape, because it's a lot of work, especially in the heat. And so last summer here I think we got up to 104 in temps.
Oh,
and so we were still out there. We had to start we kind of voted to start earlier in the morning at 6 in the morning instead of 8. But you are getting everything that you can, trying to beat the heat in the summertime. It's working fast, because if you're keeping track of what you're growing and what you need to harvest, especially if you have customers that are purchasing produce and you have a market, you have wholesale customers, you're looking at your orders, you're looking at how much you're growing, and you're weighing everything so you know how much you need to harvest. And then depending on the weather, you're like, okay, if I don't harvest this, these things are going to burn. Or, okay, I see the spike in the weather, so that means we need more water. So it's more than just physical labor. You actually have to be strategic about when you're planting, when you're harvesting, how much you're harvesting, how many harvests do you want to get off of this one crop. rotating these crops so you're not growing the same thing all the time in the same dirt, giving the soil time to rest so that you get a better yield when you plant in it again. So there's all of this strategy that comes to farming, and you just never know if all you kind of know is, oh, I want a garden. I have known that I wanted to grow stuff, but I had never factored in all of this strategy of when to plant in a pot or a tray, when to seed seeds directly into the ground, when to do this based on the seasons. It's just so much strategy to it, but it's like if you can get all that together and you know when to move and when to kind of catch things in their peak, then it's not too bad. Maybe a little hard on your back, so you have to learn how to bend down because you're going to be bent down for a long time, depending on how much you're harvesting. You're going to need some upper body strength if you're shoveling any dirt or compost. So it's just kind of really learning how to work smart so that you can do this for the long haul.
That's really interesting. I never thought about strategy being part of farming. I kind of had an idea of, well, you don't want to plant the same thing over and over because you don't want to deplete the soil, but that's only like some vague something I heard somewhere. But the rest of it, what you're talking about, I had no idea. I mean, there's so much involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
When I first heard that you were doing the apprenticeship, I was just thinking, oh, this is cool. She'll go out on a farm and do some things and blah, blah, blah. And then done, I had no idea that they were really teaching you not just how to grow things, but literally how to be a successful farmer.
Yeah. The goal with the apprenticeship is that you go in and by the end of it, you should be able to run a community garden or, work in a garden store and just have this, not like walk away with this knowledge. But it's kind of like, okay, there were people there that took the apprenticeship because they wanted to do farm to table as far as like a restaurant is concerned. There were people that were just there in school. One girl was a social worker and she was there because of the food justice aspect of it. There were just a lot of different reasons that people came to the farm, but yeah, that's the goal, is that when you leave this place, you will be knowledgeable and you will be able to do this on your own, either in your backyard or on a larger scale.
And what's your ultimate goal now that you have the knowledge? What do you envision for your future in your business?
I want to be able to grow my own food for the meals that I prepare. I also would like to be able to sell and donate produce. Just kind of learning about, there was a term I'd never heard of called food deserts. I never heard of food deserts or food just. I noticed that there were certain grocery stores that don't have certain things in certain areas, and I didn't really know what that was called, but I saw it. And so one of my goals, my grandmother gave me her house in North St. Louis, and one of my goals is to grow food in North St. Louis because that is a food desert. And she was always telling me about, she would go to the grocery store and look for certain things that she couldn't find. And so if there are other people like her in the area that are looking for certain things in the grocery store that they can't find, then I want to be able to grow those things and even expose that community to healthier eating, whether that be through a community garden in that area, teaching them how to grow their own food, or donate, or teaching them how to prepare their own food. Really, I would like to create exposure to my community and just be able to kind of supply those tools and be a resource.
What would you want to grow in your garden, in your community garden?
Definitely greens, collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, all the greens. I love chard. I did not know that it came in all these different colors, like hot pink and yellow and red. I love Swiss chard. Tomatoes for sure. I'm in love with taking care of tomato plants. I really would like to learn how to grow oyster mushrooms.
Ooh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
There was a guy that came out and kind of showed us a little bit of how to grow them. Oyster mushrooms have kind of been my meat substitute. So if I could grow them on my own, I would save a lot of money. Bell peppers, Peppers, onions, specifically Scotch bonnet peppers. It's a pepper that I use. It's like a jerk salmon or jerk tofu, and there's this spicy cabbage that I make. It has a Scotch bonnet pepper in it. So just growing stuff like that, cucumbers, squash, zucchini, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, just everything that we eat on the regular basis that you just, if it's in the grocery store, you can grow it. I would like to be able to grow everyday foods for people to see that you can do this and eat your food straight out of the ground, and it hasn't been sitting somewhere for weeks. It didn't get shipped from somewhere else. Even like to have an apple tree. I have not had a really good apple in a while because to me now they taste like water. And I learned from one of the guys at the farm that there are like some companies or whatever that there's some apples that are old that actually are like sitting and soaked in water to kind of keep them alive or to keep them from decaying before they actually make it to the grocery store. We were talking and I was like, every time I bite into an apple, it tastes like water. And so he's like, oh, well, yeah, this is one of the processes that they use to preserve apples to get them to the grocery store. So you're not necessarily eating a fresh apple. You're eating an apple that's soaked or sitting in water or preserved in some type of way for X amount of time before it gets to you and then you eat it. So even to be able to have an apple tree, to taste a fresh apple, that would be great. Also a mulberry tree. So we had one growing in the backyard of our family house years ago. Memories of my great grandmother's house. So a mulberry tree.
Did your great grandmother make mulberry pie or mulberry jam or anything like that for the family?
Not that I had. I just remembered that she cooked and my great aunt cooked, and while they were cooking and we were waiting for food to get done, me and my cousins would go outside and they would say, well, you can go pick berries. And so we would go and pick mulberries and wash them and eat the mulberries while we were waiting on dinner.
On your website, you talked about wanting to work with people about the healing properties of food. Mm-hmm. How would you describe the healing property of food to a potential client? What would that do for someone?
If someone would know that like they're dealing with a particular illness, so if it's like diabetes or gout or even like a gastrointestinal issue, to know that, okay, if you don't feel your best in your body. And so what if there were things that you could tweak or change to help you feel your best in your body? When I'm talking to people, I ask them, how much sleep are you getting? About how much water do you drink? What do you like to eat? And they'll say, and they get hesitant about it. And I'm like, no, tell me all of it. If it's candy, tell me candy. If it's chips, tell me chips. And what kind of chips? Tell me everything that you like, because I've noticed that like some things it's like a sensory thing. Mm-hmm. And so, but I need to know, do you like salty? Do you like crunchy? What do you like? And so what if we can, like, what if I can give you those things or help you have those things and even like satisfy those cravings, but you're putting good things into your body? Then, what would you say to that? And
I love it.
So people are like, well, I'm willing to try it. And I'm like, okay, so let's come up with food that is for you, not just a random diet plan, not restricting you from everything that you like until you just can't take it anymore. Then you binge on something awful.
Yep.
Let's give you something that you like. Let's talk about your sleep. Let's talk about what you eat and when you eat what you eat, because that makes a difference. Let's talk about your water intake. Let's have a conversation about your everyday habits, because some things are learned behavior. You adopt things from your family. And so if all you know is soul food, then that's what you're going to eat is soul food. But what if you can eat soul food with a little less salt or without pork or without this, or with, like, what if we could tweak these things that you already know and are familiar with and give you like a different experience with it? And I think like just from my own journey, I didn't know that you could make like cauliflower mashed potatoes, or that you could. I never had an oyster mushroom until I had to look for a meat substitute. So I just kind of want to have this open conversation with people about their everyday life. Let's talk about your health. Let's talk about how you feel and why you feel the way that you feel in your own body. And let's see if we can reach some sort of solution.
Just asking for a friend. If the friend really liked to eat chocolate and had to do it every day, what would you suggest as a replacement?
One thing I make is like a chocolate. It's a chocolate peanut butter banana smoothie, but you can also there's a it's an herb. It's called carob.
Oh yeah.
You can use carob instead of like cocoa or chocolate, and it doesn't have the caffeine in it. So if I want some chocolate, I'll put it in a smoothie. I've baked with it, like kind of made like a chocolate sauce with the carob powder. Yeah, it's that chocolate flavor, but just without the chocolate.
And it takes care of your craving?
I've made like hot chocolate with it just to have like that chocolate flavor. I just substitute it with that. There's also like maca root, which kind of has, I don't know how to explain it. It's not quite chocolate, but it would be like in the chocolate flavor family. I would put maca root powder in, like I'll drink decaf coffee sometimes. I'll put maca root powder in the decaf coffee grounds and make coffee with that. And it kind of gives that almost like this like chocolatey type of flavor to it.
It does sound really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're working with a client and you're coming up with, the plan for them, do you create specific recipes for each client or for some clients in particular? Or do you just have you have these recipes that you've developed and that's what you use?
So I kind of do it two ways. So one, we'll do like an intake form, and then I'll send it back, and I'm like, okay, here's a list of all the different foods that you can eat. And so some people are like, cool, just give me something to work with, and I'll make my own stuff. And I'm like, okay, great, your food list. And then if they want me to make something, then I will come up with recipes. And what I'm creating now is like my database of kind of standard recipes, because I know that one lady, she has rheumatoid arthritis. And so when I did her food list, I did recipes that went with her food list specifically for rheumatoid arthritis. As I'm working with different people that are dealing with different things, my goal is to create recipes and a food list that help heal that specific thing.
I love this. Oh my God. I am seeing this future for you, Joia. You've got the farm at your family's house, and I see classes that you're teaching, and you're doing your coaching, and then you've got a cookbook. I have all of these things in my head for you. So I'm just putting all of that into the universe for you. I can't wait to see where you are like 5 years from now. All this amazing stuff I see for you right now. This is awesome.
Thank you. And that's the goal. Like, I'm nervous and I'm scared, but I'm excited, and I know that it's needed. And part of me might just be stubborn that, like, you could just get this in, and I'm like, oh no, why would I do that? Instead, let me take this long road, because it's not just for me. If I do this for myself, it's gonna help somebody else. I've been able to help my grandmother. She has issues with her digestion, her GI tract, and I was like, I put herbs to. She has these episodes where she can't go to the bathroom, and then she ends up in the hospital, or she's vomiting and stuff, and so was at my mom's house having an episode, and I'm like, oh no, I've researched this, I've read on this, and I have all these herbs in my cabinet. And so I put all these like herbs together and this tea together and took it over to my mom's house. And I'm like, drink this, take this, drink water. In the morning when you get up, eat, take this again. She called me the next day, and she was like, not only was I able to go to the bathroom and all that? She said, I slept all night. She said, I have not slept through the night in years. And I was like, she was like, now what did you do? What did you give me? Okay, and I'm like just putting stuff together. And as I'm hearing these things, and I'm like, okay, I know this and I know that, this is like spiritual for me too. I'm like, okay, God, well, what else does she need? And as I'm waiting and I'm listening, and I'm like, okay, yes, add this, and I'm putting these things together. I hope this works for her to have that response the next day. And my friend had the same issue, so I gave her all the same stuff. I didn't hear from her, and I'm like, well, what happened? And she's like, oh, I'm fine, it worked. To have people have this response that I'm studying about these things and even praying about these things and putting these things together, and it helps people. Yeah, this is it.
So many things come to mind. The first thing I think of is food is medicine. And the second thing I think of is this is activism work. You're an activist. And then the third thing I think is like how to put it. Like this is how to end the capitalistic hold on people to grow your own food, to use food as medicine. And I love that you said that you pray about it. I'm not huge on prayer, but I get the idea of intuition, like listening to your gut and your God. And if we listen to that instead of watching TV commercials that tell us to take a pill and have some Pepto-Bismol or whatever, which really ends up hurting us in the future. I don't know. It's activism. You're like, you're a hero. I love it. Every bit of it.
Yeah. You're bringing forth, you're bringing your ancestors with you. You're bringing what you learned and what you grew up with that's in your DNA, right? You generationally know this stuff, and you're tuning in. Like Jennifer said, you're tuning in, you're listening to your gut, you're listening to your ancestors, and you're bringing that forth. So you're continuing the work that they did and bringing it forth to now. You are doing amazing work, Joia.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
You're listening to people when they say what issues they're having. You're spending that time with them. And we all know in healthcare, the way that our system, the way our system is set up, they spend maybe 2-3 minutes with you, and they aren't listening. Right. And they're just like, oh, what's your pain? Here's a pill. Right. They aren't listening to what's going on in your life. How does this feel in your body? Okay, what else am I hearing? Okay, let me think this through. Okay, here you go. This is what I feel will work for you. And you're doing that. Like you say on your website, this is holistic. And you're doing all this to help people, not just, we'll keep you from going through the fast food line. Sure. There's so much more to it.
That's the goal, is like, and I don't want people to be dependent on me necessarily. I don't want people to be dependent on, okay, well, I need meals because this, that, and the other. Like, no, I want you to be able to learn how to grow your own food. I want you to be able to learn how to cook your own food. I want you to take this personally and feel confident in doing this like yourself. I've been walking with my friend over the past, I think it'll be like a year in August. From the time that I met her until now, she's like, okay, I need a garden. I want to do this. I want to do that. She's gone plant-based, and everybody, like her family, keeps asking her, what are you doing? What are you doing? You look so good. Your skin is so clear. You lost so much weight. And even with her son, she's gone from McDonald's chicken nuggets to plant-based chicken nuggets. He doesn't know. He's 5. All he knows is that they're chicken nuggets. But even like with parents, you ask, okay, well, what are your kids eating? Oh, I give them what they want. They're not going to eat this. How do you know unless you try? 5-year-old eating plant-based chicken nuggets and asking for sips of coconut water and, Mom, can I have some of your juice? Because he's going to do what he sees Mom doing. For her, she's just like, it's been this whole lifestyle shift. And now her grandmother is saying, okay, well, I want you to meal prep for me. Whatever you're doing, I want you to do this for me. So from me, like, she's not dependent on me anymore. She's doing this for herself. Now she's doing this for her family. That, for me, that's the goal. It's not about, okay, well, how much money can I make off of this and that? And sure, like, I want to be able to be okay and pay my car note, but but this is for other people to feel empowered and to make a shift and to be happier and to live healthier. And maybe if people felt better about their lives and about themselves, then maybe there might be a little bit less crime. Maybe there'll be a little bit less road rage if you are doing something that fulfills you, if you feel good in your own skin. Even what you eat affects your hormones, the balance of your hormones. It affects your emotional state. It affects your mental state, how much sleep you get, what you're feeding your brain. All of that matters, even with children. What they eat for breakfast, what they eat for lunch and dinner affects their behavior. It's not just about having a business, running a business, and having customers. It really is about change. And it's about informing people and giving them knowledge and hoping that they run with it.
If you could give our audience one or two things that everybody should be eating and why, what are like your top sellers or top products, top vegetables?
Eat the rainbow.
Nice.
So that would be my advice. Eat the rainbow. So your greens to help with your digestive system, your reds and oranges because they have beta carotene in them. Beta carotene minimizes free radicals. Free radicals are when your electrons rob your cells from other electrons. Your reds and your oranges are important. Your blueberries, your purple grapes, purple heart radish. Like there's all these things that come in all these different colors. Eat the rainbow. And as long as when you look at your plate and it's brown and beige, there's kind of like a problem. So you want to make sure that there is always color on your plate.
Nice. I ate a beige plate the other day. I did. And someone noticed it and said, your food is very beige today.
Oh, no. I actually made a soup last night that had, I mean, it's literally one of the most colorful soups I've ever made. And it has so many things in it, like poblano peppers, red bell pepper, corn, black bean, I mean, all kinds of stuff. And it's really delicious. And so when I looked at the bowl, I was like, oh, look how pretty this is. It's a pretty little bowl of color. So yeah, so I get that. I have wanted to have a garden for so long, and I've tried. Lord knows I've tried. But I'm not exactly. I mean, I've had some luck with some things, but as far as trying to grow food, have not had any luck. But I mean, I live in an apartment, so I have a balcony. So is there hope for people who don't have land? Can we grow things too?
Yeah.
Can we grow food? Hopefully there's hope for those of us who don't have like a yard where we can go and plant like an actual garden. What can those of us who don't have access, what are some things that we can grow like in containers or whatever?
You can definitely grow herbs. You can grow those in pots. Even like green onions. If you get green onions from the store, you put the white part on the bottom that are the roots. You can put those in water, they'll grow back. So you can just kind of have like, green onions, it'll grow back. So you can do the same thing with celery as well. The bottom of celery, just put it in water, it'll grow back. So you can kind of start growing these things. Like my friend is growing green onions in a mason jar. Because it just like, you can always grow herbs, like you said, in pots. You can grow pepper plants. Like I lived in an apartment a couple years ago. I grew a pepper plant in a pot. You can also grow like chard and kale in pots as well. They're gonna just grow up like leafy things and sprout out. Collard greens do the same thing. So you just want to make sure that you have a pot with good drainage from when you water that the drains out of the bottom. Green beans will also just kind of grow straight up. Don't grow anything that vines because that's going to take up a lot of space. Like cucumbers, squash, tomatoes, unless you have room for that vine, like if you can hang that tomato vine up, then, but other than that, it's just gonna vine out and take over. Any plant like peppers, yeah, chard, kale, collard greens, even like lettuce will grow up and just kind of bush out. So you can
Okay.
do that. When I lived in my apartment, I was on a balcony. I got a pallet that somebody just kind of dumped off, and I took a wooden pallet and hung pot. I found pots at Dollar Tree that fit in the pallet, and I just planted certain things in that and did like a vertical garden. I think you can also do like landscape fabric underneath the opening of the pallet and like staple gun it to where it catches your soil, and you can do a vertical garden on your balcony as well.
Oh, cool.
Okay. I think I know what I might be doing this spring. I'm going to try to grow a garden. That's awesome. Joia, this is great.
Thank you. This was fun. I like talking to y'all.
It was fun.
Thank you, Joia. We like talking to you too. Is there anything that we haven't talked about or that we haven't asked you about that you're like, yeah, I need to get this out there. I need to talk about this?
I think we kind of covered everything. I would just say, like, if I had any advice to give, as best as you can, create the environment that, like, create an environment that you can grow in, create an environment that you can breathe in. All around my house, it's green. My chair covers are green. There's plants all over. There's lots of natural light. It's how I feel most comfortable. It's so important working in like offices and stuff. Like, it's not for me, it's not for everybody. For some people, they thrive on it, but I would just say create an environment that you can grow in and that you can be your best self in, and that you are comfortable in. Like, it's not about anybody else or everybody else or what you feel like you should have or what you think that you need. Just like be honest with yourself. Your environment, it reflects kind of where you are. And so if you look around and there's a bunch of clutter, you might be a little cluttered in your mind. You might be a little like flustered within yourself. So just kind of observe, create an environment that you can be your best self in. Listen to yourself, listen to your body, because it will tell you what it needs, and don't neglect it.
That's fantastic advice.
It really is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joia. Thank you very much for that. That's like, it's a good note for us to keep in mind. I love that.
I wish you were my neighbor so you could come help me with my garden. I'm not very good at it.
Yeah. Now that maybe one day, are you in Atlanta too?
No, I live in Michigan. Pipe dreams.
Wow. Pipe dreams. Yep. Yeah, like with me with my balcony garden.
Yeah. That would be like a really good, like place to get to. That is one of my goals, is to be like a garden farm manager, to kind of go out and see people's spaces and say, okay, this is what we can do. Okay, now, and just kind of check in, hey, what are your things looking like? Okay, it's time to harvest, it's time to do this, whether like in person or maybe virtually, to be like this garden manager person and just kind of
oh my gosh, that would be so helpful.
I love it. You're putting it out into the universe, Joia.
Yep.
I have two people here that are kind of leaning on me. I just started their seeds. So I went to my cousin's house yesterday with his daughter, and we started a bunch of seeds for vegetables and flowers. I just did it for my friend that lives down the street. And they're like, okay, I need you to come out here and look at this and do this and that. And okay, should I water this now? So it's just good practice. It's awesome. Practice for me. I want to operate in that space.
Awesome. God, I love this. Joia, thank you so much for being on the show and talking to us about all this. This is, it's so heartwarming. I love this so much. And I'm so excited for people to hear this and hear about you and everything that you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I already knew that Joia was pretty awesome because I'm friends with her. But to hear all of the work that she is doing and the soul connection that she has with the gardening and the feeding of people and caring for people through food and caring for our community through food and through gardening.
Activism.
That's truly, it is. It's activism. And it's so truly admirable. I think of farming, and this is, I'm admitting it right now, this is a horrible, I don't know, stereotype in my head, but I hear farmer and I think some old dude, just factory farm maybe, or, something like that. But there's this movement happening of younger people and women and people of color who are like, this is activism. This is how we care for our communities. This is how we care for ourselves. This is how we care for other people through food and gardening and farming. And to see that it's rippling out, and her friend is doing better, and her friend's family is asking her, what's she doing? And it's such a life affirming, heartwarming way to go through life.
I don't have the right words for this, but I'm going to try. So to me, it is like, remember on the last couple of podcasts when we said, what kind of world could we envision? We said we needed to have a sci-fi movie where we saw something new, not the destruction of the earth, but something new, something we could create in the future. And we look at Joia and we see she had this issue, like she was going through early menopause. She was going to doctors, to the medical establishment, and they weren't giving her very good answers. But she kept pushing and searching. And then she started saying, oh, I'm eating this and I'm feeling like this and I eat that and I get this. Mm-hmm. And then she realizes that what she's ingesting, probably also her skincare and makeup and everything else, is having an effect on her body. Mm-hmm. And then so she figures it out for herself. But in the figuring it out for herself, she also figures it out for everyone who's willing to listen, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then she goes to this cool program, and we have programs like that in Michigan. There's a farm in Detroit that is doing this for all sorts of community members, bringing them in, teaching them to farm. You have to live in the city to qualify, mm-hmm. but I'm sure there's farms in lots of communities that are doing this.
Yeah.
Internships, teaching people how to plant seeds, compost. One of the things I struggle with is I don't know when I'm supposed to prune, or am I overwatering, underwatering, like all of these things. I love that she talked about that there was strategy to it. Who knew, right?
Yeah.
There's a strategy to it. And then, so she learns this, but then not only that, the biggest part of it is she tunes into God and her gut and listens. And it's like, how do I help people? How do I bring this forward? And that's that sci-fi vision that we've been talking about. That's not the mass destruction from robots that start to kill us. That's us recreating the world, because we don't want to support factory farming. I'm not going to say we don't want to support the old white guy in the bib overalls, but
yeah.
I mean, if he's doing sustainable farming, sure. But if he's factory farming, no. We're tired of corporate America and the fact that there are food deserts, that people in communities can't get a vegetable.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is activism.
And the whole community garden idea. If you don't have room for containers to grow things, whether you live in a small space or you don't have a patio, or you don't have a fire escape that you can put things on, or whatever, community gardens bridge that gap. If we think outside the box and we take the time to listen, not just to other people, but if we take the time to listen to ourselves and our bodies and our communities, we can get the information out there and we can find new ways to help each other.
Oh, and one more thing that's super important.
Yes.
That is kind of the same topic, but off a little bit. Joia is also living that life that we talked about, where you're not punching a clock. You're not going into work 9 to 5, working for someone else, getting your paycheck. Might be a good paycheck, might be a piddly paycheck, but it's completely at the whim of someone else.
Yep.
One of the things she said early on that really struck me is she said, I'm a creative.
Yep.
I'm a creative. She is creating.
She is. And she's using her creating for the sake of activism. She's helping those around her.
It's beautiful.
And that's rippling out, and it's helping so many people.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It really is. God, what a great conversation.
Yeah, let's grow some tomatoes.
Yeah. Bye, Jennifer.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for listening today. We will be back with more Madness Cafe next week. You can find us on Instagram at Madness Cafe Podcast or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com. Bye.